Now, here in Victoria, they do love a little bit of a panic when it comes to coronavirus, and understandably, many people, including people here in this room, have got PTSD after the government who made the decisions that led to 800 people dying, who made the decisions that led to the breakdown in hotel quarantine. That they have a government that, remember, punished places like Ballarat and regional Victoria because they had an outbreak in just 5 local government areas in central Melbourne. Well, today, we got one of the most ridiculous announcements that is not about COVID, but it's about the upcoming federal election. The bloke who's the acting premier here in Victoria has announced that they would like to spend a significant amount of money on a special, bespoke place for quarantine. No longer hotels, instead a purpose-built facility for people coming back with the Rona.
It's clear that the virus will be with us for some time. We've got a delayed rollout in the Commonwealth's vaccine program. We've got a dire situation in other parts of the world. We just don't know at this stage how this year will play out.
But the joy of this announcement, and when I say joy, ridiculousness of this announcement, is that it is going to take months to plan, months to build, and he is telling you up front how much money this thing is going to cost. Remember, this facility does not exist, but they will pick somewhere and they will decide to spend this much money on building something to replace a hotel quarantine system that does work in Sydney, but for some reason doesn't work in Melbourne. Geez, I wonder if the government might be anything to do with that.
But roughly 4 months for detailed design and planning, 4 months for construction. The detailed design and planning will cost in the order of $15 million. The state will bear that cost and will do this work. This is a no regrets piece of work. So by September will be the go or no go decision.
Are you taking the piss? It's going to take 4 months to plan and $15 million. It's not that hard. Firstly, giant box, lots of rooms, there's the toilet, there's a cinema room. $15 million, thanks. Seriously, you know what this facility is going to look like. Yet the total cost is $200 million. And the Victorian government says they're not going to pay it. They want the federal government to pay it. And where have we heard this game before? It's the same game that's happening in Queensland, where what's the political party running the state there? Oh, that's right. And they too want to build a bespoke, special place when it comes to hotel quarantine, one they're going to be able to have in Toowoomba. Because if the Rona gets out in regional Queensland, who cares? It's not as bad as if one case was released into central Brisbane. Remember, the purpose of the Queensland, Victorian and Western Australian governments in terms of politics between now and the next federal election is to try to take 1 seat each of the existing government. If they can do that by trying to make Scott Morrison the person responsible for their failures in hotel quarantine, then so be it. The pressure will now, of course, be on the Prime Minister. Will you match this? Will you spend the money? Well, here's an alternative question. Why don't you just ask Gladys what she does? Does that hurt? I don't understand what's happened in National Cabinet for the past 12 months. One state has had way more people coming into it than any other state. There's nothing magical about the hotel rooms in Sydney. It's that the people who are in charge of the system in New South Wales know the difference between if one case gets out dealing with a little grass fire versus pretending that the first spark on the floor is a bushfire and must be treated with nuclear options. This is all politics. Don't fall for it. And also, it's a distraction because something that the Victorian government does control is a system to work out where people have been during any one day. So they would be able to work back if there was a coronavirus outbreak, again, God forbid, in a place here like Ballarat. They'd be able to work out, well, that bloke Murray went here, went there. It's not me, by the way, but anyway. In, out, they're able to trace that. In part, they're able to do that through QR codes. Now, I get it. These are frustrating because they're not the way that you expect to give over all of your information before you want to have a morning coffee. But today, what did the media cover? They covered the big shiny announcement that was all about make the federal government pay. What they didn't cover today is that Victoria's QR code system isn't working today. It's not up to scale today. It is still a work in progress today. This is inexcusable. These people pretend that they are keeping you safe and morons look back at the television and say, thank you, Premier. but they're not doing their most basic job. Now, we didn't have a problem with nursing homes in Australia. We had a problem with nursing homes in Melbourne. We didn't have a problem with hotel quarantine in Australia. We had one in Melbourne. We have panic from premiers in Perth and Brisbane. And sure, while Gladys doesn't get everything right, including her often decision to go and have lunch with Malcolm Turnbull on a weekend, she has got this policy right. How hard is it simply to click and drag? At the next National Cabinet meeting, you would think that the leaders can pull each other aside and say, hey, Gladys, how do you do the hotel thing? OK, can your guy ring my guy, girl, gang, pronoun, work it out? It's not that difficult. But apparently it is, to the tune of millions and millions of dollars. Also worth noting in all of this too is that the Victorian government is one that has done its best to try to make corona politics front and centre for many people going into the next federal election. But the truth is that people know that as late as this week, we got information from the Auditor-General in this state, the ombudsman rather, that they have misspent about $120 million worth of compensation that is supposed to go to small businesses in Victoria. Well, it hasn't been handed to those businesses. So the QR code system doesn't work. Hotel quarantine, nobody was responsible for. But the solution is that the federal government has to pay more and more and more. What rubbish.